In this video, I want to share with you what have I learned as a podcaster in using my own stock music in my own podcast show. If you're a music composer and you're watching this, before you tune out or give me a thumbs down, this is going to give you a lot of insight as a music composer and how stock music is used in a podcast. So first of all, I am a music composer. I sell my stock music on royalty-free libraries like Pond5 and Audio Jungle. If you've been following me, you know that I also have this YouTube channel and I have a podcast which I created almost like a year ago, roughly. And the things that I've learned as a content creator is that when I'm doing videos, I use my own music, and that gave me insight what the customer wants as a video editor or as a video maker. Now, I am not a professional video maker, but I am a YouTuber and I use my own music on my videos, and I have learned a thing or two of years of doing YouTube videos and editing my own videos and putting music into the intros, into the outros, and even in the middle sections of my videos. When I started doing podcasting though, this will give me another insight into the world of audio and podcasting and even radio show. What's the customer, what's the client looking for when they are looking to buy music from royalty-free libraries like Pond5 and Audio Jungle for their podcast? These are the people that are going to buy my music on royalty-free libraries. So this is going to give you a lot of insight on how music is being used on a podcast and why I selected the music that I'm going to have to show you in my own podcast show. So here we go. So I want to play you the intro. I selected one of my tracks for the intro of this podcast, of my podcast show. And this is what it sounds like. Welcome to the Stock Music Licensing Podcast, the #1 resource for creating passive income selling stock music online. I'm your host, Daniel Carrizales, and I'm here to help you monetize your compositions. Okay, so that's my intro. So what I did is I recorded a voice over the music and I just mixed it really much. I just created like a small bumper, if you will, but it's called an intro really. And it's this track right here. And I use that for every single episode. Then after that, I just record my voice depending on what episode I'm doing, and it will start something like this after the intro. Okay, but that's the sonic brand that I wanted for my podcast. A little bit of a pop rock, if you will, type of an upbeat track. All right, welcome to episode 41 of the Stock Music Licensing Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. So this is just the microphone, obviously, just a microphone going straight into the preamp and just straight into Logic. Now, I got an intro. Obviously, these are two separate tracks, as you can see here. And then, before I get into the content of the episode, podcasters usually have like a sponsor or it's being promoted by somebody. I don't have any sponsors. I sponsor my own podcast, meaning that I promote my own podcast. And I select a music track for that particular section, and it will sound something like this very quickly so you can hear it. And it's obviously it's underneath, and I'm promoting, or this podcast is being brought to you by Stock Music Licensing Academy. And this is what it will sound like with the track. Ever-changing marketplace. But before we get into the content of this episode, as always, this episode is brought to you by Stock Music Licensing Academy. If you want to learn more about the Academy, go to stockmusiclicensing.com, click Academy, and learn about my premium course, The Ultimate Stock Music Masterclass. Go and read all the testimonials of all the talented composers like yourself that have taken the course. Follow a step-by-step blueprint in order for them to get the music in places like Pond5 and Audio Jungle and beyond and start earning money by selling stock music online. So let's dive in right away into the topic of this episode. What is this thing, membership? So I'm using a very corporate track, one of my corporate tracks underneath the podcast has been sponsored or it's been brought to you by Stock Music Licensing Academy, which is my academy. So I'm promoting my own podcast. Oh, what is that? I'm here with my daughter Melina, so I'm trying to do many things. If you hear her in the background. And so that's the type of music track that I selected for that sponsorship, if you will. Like I mentioned to you, if you're not in the world into podcasting, it might be a little bit hard for you to comprehend, but this is an insight for you as a music composer, okay? And what I am doing as a music composer and as a podcaster, and what kind of music will work best for each section of my podcast. Now, that's it for now. Then after that is just the episode, which is just my voice, okay? All the way through. You can see some edits In podcasting, you kind of like edit certain things that are not properly said. There's a lot of and this kind of like things that might be a little bit annoying. I try to keep it as natural as possible, and then I have like an ending music towards the ending of the show, and I selected another type of music track for that. And here I wanted something a little bit more inspirational, a little bit more light, if you will, with whatever I'm saying. And I always put this on the ending of my podcast, but I always do it towards the end in the background. And if you can see here very closely, I'm looping it actually, a section, because it's not properly looped, the original composition. So I just chop it off and loop it, and this is what it will sound like, okay? So you can see, so I'm talking about a specific topic about stock music, and then the music will kick in. I'm going to turn it up a little bit so you can listen to it.
And everything's going to be like that, I believe, in the future, okay? Even utilities. I don't know how, but some things are just going to be a subscription, and then you have access to this kind of things. And it's just a matter of every month pay a subscription or pay your fee on a monthly basis, if you will. So I just wanted to really drop this very quickly. This is probably one of this is one of those episodes that the conversation will carry on. I would like to talk more about membership and subscription models in royalty-free libraries, and specifically with Envato Elements as a composer. And hey, there's more people out there in Envato Elements that are doing better than me, okay? They're not sharing the numbers, but they're doing much better than me, all right? But I want to be a voice of reason and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what you could be getting. And it's not that bad, all right? We shouldn't be so so proud, okay? But this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm getting, and you can do the same thing. And it's up to you to decide if your music is.
So what I have decided here is that towards the end of the podcast, I introduced this kind of like it's almost like a post-rock kind of track if you hear it very closely, and it works wonderful as a bed or as an underscore. It's very, very simple. This is one of my latest tracks, by the way. And this is towards the end, and it's almost like creates an atmosphere of the show is ending. It's going to an end, and it's a different track. It's not the same track that I use on my promotion in the beginning of the podcast. It's not the same music track either that is in the intro and the outro. Now I'm going to show you how the whole thing ends. Now it's quite long, but this, as a listener, when you're listening to the end, you can tell, okay, this is coming to an end. I'm just wrapping it up. By the way, this is from my latest episode, episode 41. Go and check it out on the podcast. So a little bit of a plug there, so you can go and check out the podcast. But I wanted to show you behind the scene how I'm using my own music, and how I learned how to use my own music, and how can different types of tracks can work in specific moments inside the show, inside the podcast. Now, towards the end, the outro, this is what it will sound like.
I hope this episode, wherever you listen to, it finds you well. I hope wherever you are in the world, you're doing great. And as always, rock and roll, and here's to your success.
Okay, this is the outro, which is the same theme as in the beginning, as in the intro. Obviously, I have to mix them myself and make sure that the voice is properly. You can hear the voice, but you can still listen to the music underneath it as well. But the music track in itself is just for example, on this one, it's just a corporate track.
Please, but before we get into the content,
track, that's my promotional track. Then the ending is just this kind of like a post-rock track, okay? here I looped it because I want it to be longer. So loops are really important. That's why it's very important to have a loop section of your music track. Here I did it on the go, but that's why it's very important as a composer to have loop versions of your music. And here's another loop, but then I cut it short. This is another loop, and this carries on pretty much. Sorry. This loop carries on here. That's why it's very important to actually, that's why it's very important to create loops and different edits of your music track. So I hope this video is helpful to you. If you're a music composer, you want to see how music or stock music is used on a podcast. This is coming from somebody that is a composer himself and happens to have a podcast. So I just wanted to show you how I use my own music and how I select different music tracks to evoke different emotions throughout the show. Thank you very much for all the love and support. If you see me talking very fast here in this video, it's because I have my daughter in the background playing with toys and she's doing a lot of noises, so I had to take this shot multiple times. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Thank you very much for all the messages, for all the emails. It means the world to me. If you're somebody that is new to music licensing or to royalty-free libraries, download my free guide, link in the description. And as always, rock and roll, and here's to your success.